we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do things that are not really meaningful inside. No matter what we do that's outside an accomplishment, it won't fulfill that.
Hello, and welcome to the Connect podcast. This show is all about helping you connect to your soul's calling so you can take action on it. Because the sweetest success is a blend of discovering your purpose with the inner drive to bring it to life. I'm Sheila Botello, health coach, lifestyle entrepreneur, and mom of two, best known for my online wellness programs, mentoring, and self-love passion. Listen in for inspiring interviews, solo chats, and Q&A sessions that will move you past overwhelm towards what lights you up. Stop accepting good enough and go for your version of great in your health, business, and relationships. Let's get started. Welcome to the podcast. Today we have a special guest. Meggie Houle is an international best-selling author, hypnotherapist, and self-hypnosis teacher, inherited family trauma expert, and ADHD specialist. She's dedicated to helping people unlock their full potential and achieve their goals so they can create their dream life. She is certified through the National Guild of Hypnotists. Meggie's book is entitled Breaking Out of the Busy Mind, Restless Body Trap to Create a Life You Love, even with ADHD. It's designed to guide you step by step with all the tools you need to be able to stay focused and achieve your goals. An outdoor enthusiast, entrepreneur, and world traveler, Meggie was born to help others. Her passion for motivating and serving her family, her community, and the world to lead healthy and loving lives led Meggie to found Navigation Hypnosis. Meggie, thank you for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I would love to know, when did you first discover that you had a desire to help people? Was it from an early age?
Actually, it came from an accident that I had in my 20s. And we can get right into it.
Let's.
Yes. So I've been paragliding for quite a few years now. And so what happened for me is, as I was doing that paragliding in my mid-20s, there was a moment where I found myself in a situation where I did not take care of my body that day and my mental state. And I went out paragliding and dismissed all the signs that I should have probably followed to not do something like that. And if anyone is not familiar with paragliding, it's just a piece of foil, really. And then you fly, you run off the mountains and you fly, and it's so beautiful. But at that moment in my life, I was still having a lot of needed to belong in a community, and this just an amazing community of paragliders around the world. And that exact moment, I wanted to fly and just be with everyone else, even though I had not eaten all day, and I wasn't fully present and focused at that moment. And at that time, I was still struggling with a lot of ADHD symptoms that were pretty severe. So, the impulsivity and not eating and, all those kind of behaviors that were really kind of leading the way I was living my life. And then that day I took off, I ran off the mountain. And when it was time to come and land, because I realized that my energy was dropping, I made a decision that wasn't right. And I ended up stalling my wing, which means it lost totally, it couldn't fly anymore. So I fell about 30 feet, which is equal to a third story hotel, if anyone goes to the balcony. And I landed on my feet and ended up breaking my back. I had a spinal cord injury from it. They had to remove the vertebrae. So it was a pretty traumatic event at that moment. And I struggled with PTSD after for quite a bit. And I had some paralysis in my pelvic area. So it was a lot. But then what happened is I went from doctors to neurologists and all things like that. And everyone was always checking my body. They're like, oh yeah, you're recovering fast and all that. And I was spiraling down into a really dark place mentally. I wasn't doing good mentally, but you couldn't tell because I was actually showing up I had it all together and I was strong and I wanted to recover my body as it was before. And no one ever asked me if I was seeking mental help. No one ever asked me if I was what I was doing from this really traumatic accident that I just had. And I was also in a different country. I was in France when it happened. And so all of this led me to like go to do some self introspection as I started at some point seeking help. Like, but it took me so much longer, um, and with some help from people that I started meeting that were quadriplegic and other people that were having other spinal cord injury, that's when I started healing, and started doing more of the work on the subconscious mind and starting wanting to change the way my habits and pattern were at that moment, leading me to a place that wasn't healthy. And about maybe a year and a half after 2 years, I realized I'm like, oh my gosh, like how come no one ever asked me? Like I didn't know because I was still pretty in shock after. So I couldn't even know what I was supposed to do, anything like that. And then I was like, this is like I need to find a ways to help people in a different way because my pattern wasn't to go and to seek a psychologist just because of past experience that I had. So I'm like, I want something a little different, that people could come with wanting to do change that could actually go to really the deep root of the problems. And I found hypnosis and I learned self-hypnosis. And for me, that's what really removed anything I had else from that PTSD. And not only that, but then all the other family trauma that came with it, that, all those kind of trauma that I had before the accident now, like we're existing, and all those feelings and the shame I had from the accident and all that were actually feelings I had before. But by doing hypnotherapy, and I realized like, wow, this is so powerful. Like having this kind of tools and technique that I can use every day that will remove all kind of deep trauma and PTs and all that kind of stuff. So that's actually how I got there.
What a story. And there's so many layers and things. I'm just right now like, ooh, here are some different paths we can wander down. I paraglided in the Czech Republic when I was there many years ago. And yes, it is a beautiful community of people and it is a beautiful experience. And it was short lived for me because I wasn't there long. And I actually had not a great landing, fortunately, from not so high, but I can only imagine how that experience must have really shaken you up, because even in a small little stumble of mine, it stayed with me and it did impact my spine, in a small segment, but it's incredible, right? We bounce back so well in our 20s. However, to break your back, to go through all of that, oh my goodness. So I've never bumped into anyone else who has paraglided. And there's such a high from seeing the beauty of nature from that vantage point and from being the one to propel yourself. So anyone who's listening, go and search up paragliding and you'll see some beautiful aerial images and some incredible people. And then also, as you're talking about this disconnection where people are more focused on the physical healing than the emotional healing, while both are very important, it's incredible how much are connected. And there's that great book called The Body Keeps the Score that talks about how you can have a physical trauma that is really connected in your spirit. And it's like so many things come up for people that they may not have even remembered from different experiences. So I'm so thrilled for you that you were able to make the connection at a young age to do that deep work of dealing with the PTSD from the event. But then isn't it interesting? All the other trauma from the past rises. And I know there's like big T and little t trauma. And then there's the ancestral trauma that we're hearing more about now. There's the stuff that lives in ourselves, the trauma we've witnessed in others, particularly being women in our society. And I love that you are now sharing this work with other people. It seems like so many people who come into the work of helping others, usually the jumping off point is, and jumping off point, paragliding term, is you are healing yourself first and then wanting to help others. Once you healed yourself and went through that self-healing process and discovered what you needed to do, what then did you do next? Like, did you start right away saying, great, I need to do this? Or what were your next paths that now brought you into this work today?
So when I learned hypnosis, I jumped right into it and started seeing clients right away. And I did that for a few years, and then I got even more interested in the pattern that was showing up in knowing in people intergenerational trauma. And so I followed up with doing more of a deeply learning with Mark Willen. Do you know is family inherited trauma? It's amazing, and I've started doing that and integrating that in my work to really understand how we take some of those habits and behavior from our parents and their parents and and our grandparents, and really breaking that down to what are we holding now in our core that doesn't belong to us, but we don't know, and we don't know how to heal it because we don't know it's not ours. And so, and integrating this work, and then what happened is last year when I wrote my book, Finish What You Start, that's the main title, and I found that what I was actually sharing in that book was how now I'm not struggling as I used to with ADHD, that all those symptoms actually were not there for me. And in the moment that I shared the title of my book, I got I got overwhelmed with all those people who related or were diagnosed or think they had ADHD coming to me and be like, oh, I need help with this. And I'm like, oh, okay, wow, there's the language I'm speaking attract people that we alike to, because I know exactly what they've been through, which I was struggling before, and what path I've gone through with hypnosis, self-hypnosis, healing those trauma that actually helped me ease those symptoms so I can actually breathe, because I'm like, I don't even know how I was operating before.
Mm. Oh yeah, and there's the word overwhelm that seems to permeate our culture. It's easy to think that it may be because there's just so many messages being thrown at us all the time, and then so many expectations, and then our past expectations, our family expectations, and all the options of what we can do. And then there is that layer of the things we're carrying, like you said, that the things that we are holding that are not our own. That was powerful when you said, like, we don't know how to heal it because it's not even ours. And so, what is the difference between hypnosis with a hypnotherapist like yourself and self hypnosis?
Yes, they are very similar, because at the end of the day, what the hypnotherapists do, it's guiding their client through self-hypnosis, because it's not mind controlling. It's guiding someone through a deeper state of relaxation with high suggestibility. And we can do that on our own. And that's why I teach it, because I think it's so much more powerful to have those tools that we can use every day. You know how they say the saying, teach someone how to fish, don't just give the fish. So
Right.
um, that's what I do a lot. Like, I have classes and course and programs to teach a technique that is a little different than a recording that you'll find on YouTube, because it's actually a very active practice. So it works for people that have difficulty getting into meditation, that they don't know, they find themselves wandering away from what they're trying to do. But this work, and that's why this works so well when people find themselves scattered or inability to focus, and they can have a technique that actually keep them grounded and on track, and it's structure, but with enough fluidity that they can get all that needs to be healed. And when I've worked with a lot of people in one-on-one, and we do the same work, but I still teach them the technique, because in the outside the one-on-one, life keep laughing, things still happen. And even if I work with people for 6 weeks, for example, maybe in 2 years they're going to have an event that's going to be really meaningful in their life, and it's so important that they have these tools, these resources, that they can always go back to and help them. So really, it's the same, but like it's more like having this self-responsibility and authority in doing that on our own.
Yes, taking the control back of, getting the help, but then also being able to really take it to heart and create a habit from it. And so, what are some of the practical tools that you suggest for people to better regulate their emotions between sessions with you? Obviously, like you said, this self hypnosis process that you take people through. Um, like, how does this impact habits as well? Say, if someone's trying to shift a habit, say if they keep telling themselves, "Oh, I'm not a morning person. Working out is hard," or they have a food sensitivity but they just can't stop eating the food, or say they want to quit smoking. Like, is it all the same type of process for each of those things, or is it needing to be tailored differently?
No, and that's what this technique is so powerful, because it works for any habits and any patterns that they have. And one of the things that really important is when we have emotion coming up, we work and operate and react and act in our life based on and led by emotions. And so if any time we don't take the time to acknowledge our emotion, we shove it down, and we don't really know how to handle what's going on. So example, someone eating that keep eating when they don't want to, and snacking, and eating too much all the time, a lot of the time there's emotional eating, the eating to distract themselves, or filling themselves up, or the needs that they have from some of the other emotion, either be loneliness or boredom or anger. And every time they're angry, then they eat. Every time they feel lonely, they eat. So we all have those little mechanisms that we revert to suit ourselves or to distract ourselves. But if we're not connected to how we feel, then we don't know why we can't stop eating. We don't know why we can't stop smoking. For some people, we can't stop binge watching Netflix all the time, because we're not paying attention to that. So this is actually a very big part of this process too. Is first is there's no bad emotions.
Right.
All emotions are good. They're there to teach us something, and we have to be great. We are grateful for them, because wow, what gift we have to always be informed of what we like. We don't even have to think about what we like or don't like, because our emotions will tell us in some ways if we listen to them. And then we can be like, oh, just know to not judge those emotions. That's where it really, really start making the work, because then we can see them and look at them and just acknowledge them, and then decide what we do with them.
I feel like that a lot of people have a hard time sitting with their emotions because when they mine the depths of their history, they see that they've been told to disconnect from it. Like, for instance, maybe they were told, like, say, a little boy, "Oh, don't cry, suck it up, be strong, you're a big boy," or "You're okay," when really they're not okay. So it's like bypassing those emotions. Do you feel like that is a big part of it?
Oh, absolutely. Right. Because when we, between the age of 0 to 12, we like constantly in a state of hypnosis. And so everything that we are being told by our caretaker or parents or family system, school, even, it just goes right into our subconscious mind. And by that age, we become conditioned to the environment we've been living in. So if a parent didn't have a knowledge of emotion, or didn't make a safe environment for the child to express those emotion, live those emotion, and be like, even being angry at the kids, and the kids not understanding why, and leaving the kids to understand, trying to make sense of what is the adult feeling with the little child mind. So then they start associating that, okay, well, it's wrong for me, it's bad for me to feel sad, or like don't not even understanding other people emotion, because they've not been taught. And that's just what it is, which is not being taught how to live and feel an emotion, because of our environment when we're young. So it's not our fault. And even parents, if they don't know, it's because they've not been taught. and their
Right.
parents would not be taught. So it's like that's why it goes and keep going, because they were just raised a certain way. And sometimes you just see our parents and imagine themselves like, what would their look what were their life looking like when they were 5 years old? And just by doing that, having a lot more compassion for them and taking back self-responsibility on, okay, this is the story that I grew up with. Now this is, as an adult, it's our job, it's our responsibility to do something about it, to seek, to learn, and to have mentors. And we all do at some levels, just because we grow and become adult, and the mind and the way we were programmed for the first 10 years of our life is just not relevant anymore to the adult life that we're trying to live.
So powerful. And it, as a parent of boys, one who was very active in sports for many years, it brings to mind the importance of really knowing that you have like good coaches speaking into your children as well, because like many of us adults, we're just little children who haven't fully grasped what we experienced in our childhood. So we just bring some of that stuff forward and project it onto others. And so being a coach, for instance, or somebody who's, a teacher or somebody leading children, being so careful the messages that we're putting into these minds that, like you say, are being hypnotized. It's so interesting. I've never thought about it that way, but you're right. As we're really growing from a young child, our mind is being programmed by what we see, by what we experience, not even by things that are explicitly said, but the implicit things that just kind of we absorb. And so it's beautiful also to hear that there is a way of managing and reversing some of that potential damage that, I know other people who have experienced from their, competitive sports or whatever the case, where they've had people not speaking words of life into them, let's just say, there is a way of turning it around. And so I actually am curious also about, as we're talking about hypnosis and the things that we experience and we internalize, how much of the words that we say to yourself how much does that tie into it? Like affirmations, our self-talk, all of that kind of stuff.
Everything we focus on grow, right? So if you want to focus on something negative, then you are going to start believing it. And as you say it even to yourself, and if anyone has a child, and people, like, the child picked up on that, they do. And if a parents, so even on my own experience or other people experience, like if a parent is really criticizing their appearance all the time, then the child that's in contact with these people are like, oh, like this adult is like so criticizing themselves and saying those negative things about themselves, so I must do the same. And they just don't know, right? It doesn't really feel rational, but they don't know, they're just a little child. But then it becomes, sometimes that's how we actually lose that self-esteem and self-confidence. And that's why it's so important to know how we talk about ourselves, because around child, it's also going to impact the way they are going to talk about themselves further in life, because that's just what they learn. It's what adults do. If that's what they do, then I must do it. Or, oh, like, I love my mom, she's beautiful, but she keeps saying that she's not. So if I think she's beautiful and she's not, I must not be beautiful. Like, or mom thinks all those people are, she's judging them, so she must judging me. I'm never going to be beautiful enough. So little tricks like that, and even small comments about, even if we think they're positive, it's like, oh, look at how thin she is, and getting more attention because the person is thin. Then it's going to be like, in some level, could be, oh, if I'm thin, if I stay thin, I'm going to have more attention. So language and there's no way to really totally 100% not affect the people, or like the child, because it's the way they receive it and the perception. Of course, we don't even know how it's going to be taken, and two child are going to be completely different. But if we it's important for us to do the works in the release, and to remove those beliefs that were installed to us when we were young. Let's just think about when did that start? Did I started thinking those negative thoughts upon myself, that I became too perfectionist, or that I was never good enough, or I need others' validation to feel my worth. So they don't, we don't create them as adults. It usually come from what we learn in the past.
It really helps us to sit and to get quiet and to take that time of investing, looking back, not spending tons and tons of time there, but just getting into that inquiry. It is so incredibly powerful. I know I've done it in my life with certain other things, and it is so empowering to know that you can change your mind and you can make a shift moving forward. And I'm curious to know how you, when you're working with someone on helping to revitalize the inner mind and shift perspectives, how important is it for outer body health, like the physical health and its connection with the mind and healing the mind? Do you feel like your clients who are focusing on their physical health get even better results when they're working on their mental health, or is it not really connected?
It's 100% connected. And I think you mentioned that earlier too, right? It's so connected. It's, if we're just thinking about what are our behaviors when we're stressed, like we end up like, I know for a big part of my life, I didn't realize, but I was holding my shoulder up, like I was holding myself up, and it created a lot of tension in my neck and shoulders. But I realized that it was just my stress response. And as I released the emotions, like that came down. I didn't have to hold myself anymore to protect myself. And there are a lot of disease that comes from stress, just as we talked earlier. Gabor Mate's work, which is amazing and fantastic, to just the intelligence of a body. A body will inform us where, like, what is going on. I, for myself, sometimes the emotion that I've come, like grief, and then starting having back pain at that moment. And if I'm not paying attention and I'm grieving and I'm sad, then the body is going to tell you, hey, you're not paying attention to your emotions here. You need to take a break. It's going to show up in all the physical ways. And they've worked together, because if you can listen also to your body, then and tune into that, then you are going to be knowing what is going on with yourself, but also you can heal your body with the mind. And the body can heal your mind too, because the movement, that's what also release emotion, because they are stored in our bodies. So some people like to do yoga for that. I like Qigong, and I find that Qigong really allow me to breathe slower. And just that, because also when we stress, we end up like not taking full deep breath, and we're stressing the breathing and having shallow breath. So if you have even practice that allow us to relax in the same time and moving that energy out. Anger is a really strong energy. So when I've done anger work with my client, like I've then punched into a pillow, because we want it out. We want that energy out in a safe environment. Or going boxing to the gym. I personally, that's been something I've done for many years now. I don't even know how I could having that energy to box. But when I was going through a lot of anger after my accident, I went to the boxing gym every single day and released that. But in a way, without knowing it, that was the perfect thing I could have ever done for myself. Just
Your
moving
body
that
is so
energy.
smart. Your body knew, and you just trusted your body and you went. And actually, I'm curious, have you been paragliding since the accident? Like,
Yes.
did you get, that's great. So you didn't let it have power over you. You just, and I love how initially when you were sharing about it, you knew that you were not in the right headspace to be paragliding in the first place. So you recognized it wasn't that it was paragliding's fault. It was your mind was not in the right place. Just like if we're feeling a little off, sometimes it's like stay in bed, get well, right? Or if, call a friend, whatever you need to do. We're all going to have days like that. So that's great. You didn't let that stop you from the beauty of that experience of paragliding. I would love to hear too. I mean, so many things. I'm sure you could share tons of stories, but do you have a favorite client story that you would love to share with someone who's journeyed with you and come through something and out the other side from hypnosis?
Yes, there's actually, I'm thinking about this one client. She came to me and she had been doing a lot of ceremonies like ayahuasca, and she's been seeing therapists and a lot of people for years and years trying to work through some of the deeper stuff. And she just couldn't couldn't get and connect, and she would get frustrated sitting in those kind of plant ceremonies. And she's like, why everyone is having a breakthrough and I can't even have a breakthrough with how I use kind. And then she came to me and she's like, Maggie, I have a house, I have a perfect boyfriend, I have the job, the money, I have everything. It's like, I'm not happy. This is, I don't know what to do. Like, what is this? I've gone there. I've reached a goal of life, of achievement and success. And now what? And so with her, when we started working, it took 1, 2 sessions where there was still a lot of resistance because she wanted to be perfect when we were in hypnosis. She wanted to do the technique perfectly. And then we started inquiring and just like, oh, where is that need to be perfect coming from? And then from that moment, we went to early, early childhood, where that's when she will get trying to get attention from her parents, separating and trying to be the perfect child for both of them. So everything she had done to this point had been led by wanting this validation from her family unconsciously, but that was in the root. All her choices, everything she's done, it was like, look, I'm worthy. Like, look, everything I'm doing, and I'm done. And going through the subconscious mind with that deeper work, allow her to recognize that, we heal that. And then after the few sessions we have together, she completely changed. Like physically, or everything was the same. She still had this job. She still had the house with her boyfriend and everything. But internally, she's like, whoa. She's like, I've tried everything, Maggie. I don't know why I needed this. I needed hypnosis to get to really to the root of what was really going on, so she can actually start enjoying herself and start really doing the things she wanted to do the way she liked it. Just being able to sit on her porch and enjoying. She, for the first time, she's like, I've been living here for like 4 years. She had never just sat and looked outside and enjoyed the peaceful place she was living. It's like, I don't know how I've been going like this for that long. So outside, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do things that are not really meaningful inside, and it makes us feel empty, and we're seeking the next best thing to fill it up. But that's why we have to go in, because no matter what we do, that's outside an accomplishment, it won't fulfill that.
I'm sure so many people listening can relate to some form of that. The need to accomplish, to show outer success for some form of validation, and often bypassing what you truly desire to be doing, right? I was actually just listening to someone else's story today while I was out doing some errands about, her parents wanted her to be a doctor or a lawyer, or else she'd be a failure. And she really wanted to do fashion design. And the struggle that she went through, and finally she found her path. But I'm thinking, wow, when you're told that from a young age, like, how are you going to ever enjoy your life, right? And to be a parent and to just fully allow your kids to express themselves as who they are, I feel it's very freeing. I'm grateful because I had parents who were like, what do you want to do with your life? Go for it. So I am so grateful for that. And as a result, I've been able to bring that into my kids' life. And it's interesting, though, how the world keeps giving them different messages. They're like, really? I can do this? Can I really? I don't know. Other people are saying this and that. It's like, no, get quiet. What resonates for you? That doesn't mean that everything you do is you're going to love every element of it. We're all going to need to pay the price in some respects as we move through our lives, especially getting started. But to be able to find enjoyment, my goodness, by just sitting on your porch and enjoying the view and enjoying the stillness, too many of us don't enjoy stillness. We have to be so busy, or like you say, binge Netflix to keep our mind off of things because there's so much we're not looking at that is within. So I think the work you're doing is incredible and so needed. And I have been in the last year really doing some deep dives in central nervous system healing, which I feel like goes right alongside of this type of work. And it is a lot of stillness. It is a lot of just slow down, don't rush. You've got lots of time, and it's guided and it's beautiful. And, this process of transformation, it seems like in those 2 sessions, you were able to get a real good look with this client as to how she can grow. And then she probably was able to grow pretty quickly. However, it can feel like a long road sometimes. And from people who don't know and they've not experienced this, and it's just a concept in their mind, how do you coach people along when they're just getting started or thinking about getting started with hypnosis when they don't have proof that it works for them? Like, what are some strategies that you share?
I never had anyone that didn't get into hypnosis because it's just a natural state we go through all the time.
Mhm.
Every time we drive, for example, if anyone here has driven on the highway and missed the exit, even though they were driving, and like somehow you missed it.
Yeah.
that, yes, so it's called the highway of hypnosis, and it's just a state where we're like focused. We knew what was going on all the time, but attention was focused on something else.
Mm.
And if there was a situation that a car will come really fast and surprise us, we will kind of like whoop, get out of that state and then do what we need to do to stay safe. And it's the same when we're in hypnosis. We just go to a deeper state that allow us to access the subconscious mind, where we have all of the memories, belief, habits, like everything that's stored, that happen, emotion and feelings in our life is stored in the subconscious mind. And hypnosis is basically the bypass of the critical factor. And what the critical factor does is to anything that comes in our conscious mind, like everything we see, perceive, hear, if it comes in dissonance with what's already in the subconscious mind, it won't really get it passed through because it wants to conserve energy. It wants to do what's best to operate in a most efficient way all the time, which is really contrary to what we're trying to achieve when we're trying to do something consciously, just trying to change habits in the day-to-day life. So usually when my clients get into hypnosis the first time, then they want to do it again. They never want to get out of that state because they're like, oh, I don't have this little voice criticizing everything I do. It actually just wants the healing. It wants the change. It wants to receive. So the first time they go into hypnosis, it's for a lot of the people I've worked with, is the first time they actually experience the chatter of the mind, like being turned off. The first time they felt peace and unscattered and just there. So
Amazing. You're right. The brain wants to take the path of least resistance. From a nutritional standpoint, which is my background, the brain is the part of our body that actually requires the most caloric intake. We think it's our gut, right? Because that's our stomach, but it's our brain. And so it's like conserve, 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 got to keep this body alive. And so it's so calorie dense that anything we can do, like this work and like meditation and all of these things to relax ourselves, allows the brain to operate more fully. Like it's like taking away all of those cobwebs of, like you say, those voices, those things that are like pulling us away from really what we want. It sounds incredibly freeing.
yes, it is.
I love it. So, this has been so fascinating. And I feel like I could talk to you for so long about this. And I'm sure so many incredible stories you have. And I would love to know, like, where can people find and follow you? What's the best point of entry to learn about, like, what is the first step of working with you? And what is next for you?
Exciting. Yes. So anyone can get a copy of my book at finishwhatyouStartbook.com, and they can totally get a copy there for free for you, listener. And yes, and they can reach out to me from there. They have my information. And what's next for me? I'm actually starting as also a keynote speaker. So I'm doing that part on top of having my program to help people learning self-hypnosis and really help people with ADHD to I call it unscattered. So going from scattered to unscattered, but really to feel that peace and ease. Um, and then with that, also going around and touching more people with a keynote that I built and I've started doing, because I think if I can help more people and have a bigger audience, it's just a lot to more change and more peace and kindness and compassion in this life.
And we can use so much more of that. I love that you are following your calling and doing this. And thank you so much for that link for our listeners for your book. That's amazing and so generous. And we'll make sure that we have it linked in the show notes. And as we approach the end of this episode, I would love to hear your own pleasantries, the things that you love to do to fill yourself up from a self-care perspective, in addition to hypnosis.
I drink hot chocolate every single day. It's for me, and it's the days that I don't, I feel it, because I feel like my hot chocolate opened my heart. And it's really fun because anyone that's been around in my world, like I don't know, I put some magic on that hot chocolate. I don't know what I do, but they can't make a hot chocolate like mine. So I just share my heart with them. And for me, I know I'm taking the time for myself to do that and enjoy it, because I just love chocolate and I enjoy it so much.
Ooh, is it a special type of chocolate? Is it cacao, or what is it that you use?
Yeah, I use cacao paste, and the real thing, and it's really strong. So I think for a lot of people, my hot chocolate is too strong, but I like it really strong. And yeah, I use cacao paste. And I add a little bit of cacao butter, and I'm vegan as well, so I use plant milk, and a little bit of maple syrup because I'm from Quebec. So of course.
Of course.
And it's perfect. It's the perfect magic formula for open heart.
Oh, I love it. I had someone was on the podcast a few episodes ago, Kim Rua, and she's from Netherlands, and she is a cacao priestess now. And so she taught me all about cacao. And I have been having cacao regularly with like almond milk, and someone the beautiful couple who lead Boho Beautiful Yoga, they're from BC. They told me about in your cacao smoothies, which is I usually have mine cold, is a frozen lemon wedge added in. Oh my goodness, I can't stop. It's like so good. And a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, just to kind of open things up. Sometimes a little cinnamon. There is something heart opening about it. It is so true. And it's not like there's no sugar, because I use unsweetened, almond milk, and it's so good for you. So I love another synchronicity, Mickey. Yeah, another synchronicity. I love it.
Yes, and I do want to have more information on that. That sounds amazing.
Oh, so good. Well, I so appreciate you being here and sharing your story, sharing your experience. And I think a lot of people are going to come away with some beautiful tools and thoughts of what they can do to make some progress through areas that are holding them back. And definitely with people who struggle with ADHD, which seems to be something I hear so much more about. So your book is going to help so many people. And I'm excited to see you on some stages. I think that'll be amazing.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Sheila. I think it's so amazing that I get this opportunity to share with everyone.
Oh, yes, so good to have you here. And friends, I would love to know, and I'm sure Meggie would love to know as well, what came up for you today while you were listening? Have you ever found yourself pondering hypnotherapy for some long-held habits that you've been wanting to shift? We would love to know. So drop us a message on the socials to ask us, tag us, and share this episode with your friends. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you on another episode. Big blessings. Thank you so much for being here with me on the Connect podcast. If you like this episode, please share it with someone you think would enjoy it. Also, if you head over to iTunes to leave a review, I'd be so grateful. Let us know what your favorite parts were and what you'd like to hear more of. It will help us have a greater impact, elevating many more people to grow and succeed together. See you next time.